Good morning students. Welcome to our today's online session. How are you all? Today we are going to discuss our lesson from our Hornbill Landscape of the Soul, in which the author is speaking about art forms like drawing, drawing, painting and all, its importance, how an artist gets involved in his artistic form. All these things we are discussing in this chapter. When you are listening to this video, keep your textbook with you. Now listen carefully. Landscape of the Soul. In this chapter, the writer tells us about art and its history through stories, and the chapter contrasts two forms of art, Chinese art and European art, by using two different stories. The first one is about a very popular Chinese painter, Daozi. It was in 8th century when he was hired by the Tang Emperor Zongzi to decorate a wall in the palace. Wu painted beautiful scenery with mountains, waterfalls, forests, as well as clouds, and the blue skies with people living harmoniously in a happy environment. However, he painted a cave at the foot of a mountain that was inhabited by a spirit. Upon seeing the wall painting, the emperor started noticing the outer appearance of the painting, how the painting looks like from the perspective of an audience. But the painter drew his attention to a cave at the foot of the mountain. The painter told the emperor that he would take him inside, and he clapped his hands. And an entrance to the cave opens, the cave in the painting. The entrance of the cave opens, where he gets in and vanishes. The painter vanishes. No one saw him thereafter. So this is one story. There are two more stories in the chapter. The second story, it's about a painter who wouldn't draw an eye of a dragon because he feared that the dragon would fly out of the painting if he is drawing an eye for this dragon. So that is the second Chinese story. In another story, to represent a European art form, a master blacksmith, his name is Quentin Metzis. A master blacksmith fell in love with a painter's daughter. The father didn't approve of him because of his profession. He is a blacksmith and the father is a painter. So he didn't approve of him because of his profession. The blacksmith one day sneaked into the father's painting studio and painted a fly on the painter's latest panel. The fly seemed so real that the painter tried to hit it first before realizing it was in the painting. So the painter, the father, thought that it is a real fly and he tried to hit it. Then he realized that it's not a real fly, it's a painting. The painter accepted him as a trainee in his studio. Accepted whom? The painter accepted the blacksmith as a trainee in his studio after this incident. The blacksmith married the painter's daughter and later became one of the famous painters of his time in Europe. So these are the stories mentioned in the chapter which shows the art forms or the relevance of art both in China and in Europe. These stories reveal us to how art form is believed to be followed in two different regions in the world, two different parts of the world. So how much this art form was believed by the people, how much people have given how much importance to these art forms in two different regions of the world. China is one part of world and Europe is in the other part of the world. So in two different regions, how much importance was given to this art form. In Europe, an artist wants the viewer to see a real viewpoint by borrowing his eyes. The artist wanted the viewer to see a real pic. The art must be perfect and must be likeness. Whereas in China, the artist doesn't paint a real one, doesn't make a real picture, but uses his inner and spiritual voice to create an abstract piece, not a real piece, an abstract piece using his inner and spiritual voice. The viewer can enter the painting from any point. That means the viewer can see the painting using his own perspective. The painter doesn't want the viewer to see the paint as he likes. That means the painter like. The viewer can view the picture in his own view, his own perspective, and can travel according to his own imagination. The artist wants the viewer to enter his mind and create a path of his own. So it is an abstract piece, so the viewer can see the picture using his own view. Whereas in Europe, the artist gives a clear picture. Okay, so whatever he wanted to show, he will display it in the picture. This concept of this Chinese people, this concept is called Shan Shui, which means mountain water. The concept of the Chinese painter is called Shan Shui, which means mountain water. When they are used together, they make the word landscape. Shan Shui, mountain water, makes landscape. Finally, the chapter has a second part too. Towards the end of the chapter, you will see something in a box. So finally, the second part of the chapter, Getting Inside Outsider Art by Brinda Suri, has talked about the concept of art brute. Art brute. Art brute translates to the art of the ones who have no right to be artists. It's because they lack any formal training, yet somehow possess artistic talent and insight. That's why it is told who have no right to be artists, because they don't have any formal training, yet somehow possess artistic talent and insight. She referred to them as the ones who think outside the box and defy the normal standards. People refer to their work as unorthodox art. She cited the example of Nek Chand's work at Rock Garden in Chandigarh is a form of art brute. So with this example, our chapter ends. So I believe you understood. So the chapter gives us a clear insight of the history of art and Chinese art and European art. Two different. It draws a contrast between Chinese art and European art, and it shows us what is it meant by art brute. So read the text. There are certain Chinese words also given over there in the textbook. Underline those words and underline those things when you are reading the textbook. Now download the notes, attend the test and see the URL too. We can meet in our next session. Thank you. Have a great day.